Doug Katz. We're absolutely thrilled to be with him today. I really wish, Doug, I was sitting having this discussion at the bar at Fire or Zug, but we'll have to make do with our kitchens. And you all know of Doug. Yes, he's the owner of Fire Catering, Chutney Bee, Zug, Provenance at the Cleveland Museum of Art. He is the 2014 Best Chef of the Great Lakes region by James Beard. He's a huge advocate of using sustainable and local food. And of course, going with that is making sure your food is healthy, and widely recognized as a champion of sustainability. And perhaps most importantly for our purposes, he's an alum of Leadership Cleveland 2019. So with that, Doug, thanks for joining us, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay? You're good? All right, great. So let's see. So it's fitting that this is April 1st. I just sort of think of this as all an April Fool's joke, and we'll wake up and hopefully this will all be over. We, all of us, I think, as leaders are having different impacts within our businesses. You hear about the restaurant world on the news every day and how it's really impacting us, but I think it's a little unfair because I think it's really affecting all of us as a community, as a society. I think we tend to get a lot of publicity maybe because people just love food, and so I'm certainly happy to hear them talk about all the restaurants and what's happening, because it certainly is happening to us as well. And I thought I would just tell you sort of how we managed through the situation. We really started thinking about this even in February. My manager is, I don't know if he's just interested in pandemics, but he sat down with me at one of our meetings and he said, this is really going to affect us in our businesses. And I heard him talking, and for a minute or two, I sort of thought to myself, he's a little crazy. And I had to go home and tell my wife that Todd actually said this today. And we were both sort of sitting there thinking he's a little, maybe, over the top, thinking that it would affect us. And of course, he was not wrong. But what I appreciated was he put that into our mind early. And I did think about that as I heard news progressing. And so as it started to really affect us, around March, around March 12th, I would say, we were at Fire, and we were looking at our reservations for the weekend that was coming up, I think the 13th and 14th. And what we noticed is there was a lot of, sort of reservations dropping off and a lot of reservations being added, and it was unusual. We were about, I would say 70% down on Friday night, and on Saturday night we were, maybe about 30% down. And so as of Thursday, we really made a decision as we started to hear what was happening in the news, that we wanted to get in front of what was happening. We also just didn't, have a clear grasp as to how it would affect us. But on Thursday, we decided that we would close Fire and that we would make that decision to close at 2:30 on Sunday. And that was really based on the business model and knowing that we were going to run out of money if we didn't make a quick decision to close. So we sat on Thursday, we actually talked to all the employees. Actually, maybe have been Friday, but I think one of those 2 days we sat with the employees and we told them that this is what was happening. And at that time, it was very emotional. No one had really decided to close their restaurants. We just thought it was the best way for us to come out of this. If we said that we would close until June 1st, or for 8 weeks we would be closed, we would be able to preserve what we built, and we would lay off all of those employees, and really didn't think it would affect my other businesses. So that was sort of the first thing that we did. And then as the weekend progressed, we started to hearing more and more in the news. By Sunday at 2:30, by Saturday, Saturday night, we spaced out our tables. We took out 3 or 4 tables in the dining room. We continued to drop. We had originally been at a 30% reduction in reservations. We went down to about 70%. So we really only did about 30 people on that Saturday evening, when typically we would do upwards of 150, 180 people, maybe even 200. On Sunday at brunch, we did about 30 people, and we cleared out more tables, and that was really our last service. But you could really feel the pandemic really starting to happen, at least in our world. And so from that, we decided to really look at our catering facility. So Fire has a catering facility on Lee Road. We run our catering out of that building, but we also run a business called Chutney Bee, which is at Van Aken. It's a Thai, Indian, and Moroccan rice bowl concept. And we decided next that we were going to close. We were actually getting a ton of catering cancellations that entire week. We lost maybe 15 parties within a 3-week period all through April. We had a party of 500 in May that was still being planned, and we expected that that's when we would be able to start catering again. And as the weekend progressed, we realized that that was most likely going to have to be canceled too. So we really, again, making an economic decision, we had to close down that facility as well, which really affected Chutney Bee. And so we decided to run Chutney Bee Monday and Tuesday at the Van Aken Market Hall, just really to try and provide food for people, to try and allow the employees to work, see how busy we were, whether we could do to-go food out of the market hall at Van Aken. And what we realized, unfortunately, is that I think by that time, everyone was really sort of in their homes and sort of not going out as much. And we really, I think we did $100 on Monday, and maybe we did $50 or $100 on Tuesday. And at that point, we decided to close Chutney Bee on Tuesday. From there, and the art museum, I should say, which I'm a chef partner of, they closed the museum as of Sunday as well. And initially had said they'd close through the end of the month, but they've then now decided that indefinitely they'll be closed and that programs will be closed until June. So all of those employees were furloughed within Provenance, and really that means you can use your sick pay and your vacation, but then you'll have to file for unemployment. So at this point, with Chutney Bee closed and with Fire closed, putting aside Provenance, we were down about 90 employees. We have about 107 employees total. And we decided to really focus our efforts on Zug. And Zug is on Cedar Hill. It is a much more casual experience. It's something, we did take some tables out of this to space out our tables a little bit. We were a bit concerned because it's a shareable plates menu, which makes it, during this difficult time, a hard concept. But we were really busy on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday of that week that we decided to do all these other closures. And we really had some excitement in that way, that we thought, oh, well, maybe we can continue this for a bit. And we really took that as far as we could. And then as the news progressed, we decided to close Zug, and I forget what day that was exactly. And we immediately transitioned into takeout and delivery. And luckily, we have a platform called Toast, and we use that as our POS system, or our point of sale system. And it was very easy to add 2 features to that. One was the delivery feature, and one was the takeout feature. So really, we had 10 managers working at Zug, managing the production of the food, managing the takeout experience. We had a lot of to-go containers, all of those things. We brought everything sort of over to Zug, and we really ran it as managers during that week, and really figured out how to create an experience for people at Zug. And so we've now been doing that exclusively. We've now gone to curbside since that time. So we were allowing people to come into the restaurant to pick up their bags, but now we've gone to curbside as of about a week ago. So now we just let employees work in the restaurant area, and then we will bring out the food curbside to the cars, and then I'll make deliveries to people's homes. And we create a really distinct process. One person is bagging the food, one person is preparing this food, one person's preparing that food. person's doing delivery, so that we really keep our distance, and we tried to streamline as much as possible. I think in the restaurant business, we're just used to dealing with high stress moments and maybe disastrous experience. You know, if you think of a Saturday night at say 8 o'clock, there's never a roadmap or a rule book that you can follow. You really just, you know, every moment you're making decisions that are going to be best for that moment. And so I think we're set up in the restaurant business to deal with situations like this. And I think in the past, unfortunately, I've had some difficult experiences. My diner, unfortunately, burned down in 2014. And it was something that, though I feel like our business really prepares us how to, you know, how to deal day to day with things that come to us, able to be flexible, that experience really taught me that you really can make, so you can really come out of things if you just make decisions and make little steps forward. And I think you have to stay positive in situations like this. We don't really know what the end game is. We don't know when the last day of this will be. We don't know what will happen when we come out of it. But I think what's important is we look at every day, and we look at just staying in the game and doing as much as we can. And as long as the community will support us, we're here in the community to serve. My employees are just so happy. The ones that are still with us are happy that we're able to work together every day. We do have a great time doing it at Zug. We have created a great social media campaign where every day we're doing different social media videos and different posting when we do reopen. And I think we are only able to do that because we thought quickly and made quick decisions to close down, you know, Fire and close down Chutney Bee and really focus in on what we could manage during this time. And that's allowing us to really look at the future and be better prepared for the future. Whereas if we were sort of caught off guard and we just continued running thinking that we could make it through and keeping our employees on payroll and ordering food from our suppliers, we would have been caught off guard, and then we would have been in a real difficult situation. Restaurants really are not ones where you can, you know, you really rely on your paycheck to paycheck sort of model, unfortunately. But I guess during this time, I think, you know, for us, we are so used to constant change and constant pivoting that it's really set us up to be able to weather this storm. That's really what I have to tell you. And I think the questions that you ask will really guide the conversation. And so I'm happy to take those questions, unless you want to hear something else from me.
Doug, thank you so much. I think at this point we will open it up for questions. If you have a question, I ask that you please type it into the chat discussion, and I will do my best to move through those. To start, Doug, we've read a lot that the Cleveland chef community is very supportive of one another. So how have you been able to stay in touch with other restaurant owners and kind of support each other during this time?
So, you know, it's really an hour by hour sort of connection, I would say. Within Cleveland Heights, it's of course I'm most connected with the businesses around me because we are open currently doing takeout and to go. And so I'm talking to Bridget, who owns Luna. I'm talking to Mark Orell, who owns Vero. I'm talking to the people at the Fairmount. I'm talking to so many people sort of within the, you know, the neighborhood. An hour doesn't go by where I don't get a text from a friend, you know, whether it's, you know, all different, you know, restaurant people across the community. And Cleveland Independence, we're a group of about 80, 90 restaurants in Cleveland. We get emails hourly on what programs are available to us. So there's great connection that way, but I think we're just already set up for casual conversations amongst the constantly are talking to each other about how it's affecting us and our businesses, and we know which businesses have closed because they, aren't able to manage this at, the way their businesses run. And we're really there for each other, and that's really how Cleveland restaurants have evolved anyway. We're a small town, which allows us to connect with each other.
So you mentioned many of the precautions that your staff is taking with preparing the food and delivering the food. Are there questions that we as patrons should be asking of other restaurants to make sure they're taking necessary precautions, much like you have?
I think the division of, finding out from the restaurants you're ordering from how they are preparing the foods, and how much interaction is there amongst their staff. I think setting up your strategy so that there are people doing certain jobs, and then it all sort of comes together at the end is important. I think when you go in, I think you really have to pick places that you I think have trust in already and that are part of your community. I think the more that you can support the takeout and delivery models right now, it's super important, because I would expect, I've heard anywhere from 30 to 50% of the restaurants will not be here when we're, out of this. So it doesn't mean that some of the names will not be out there, but I think the ownership structure, the changes will be huge in the business. And so I think it's important to get out there, but I think you have to feel safe. I think it's really protecting yourself. I think whether it's through staying in your car and making a phone call and calling the restaurant saying, is my order ready, and letting us bring it out to you. And we tend to put the order in the trunk. We'd rather not even have the guests come out of their car and come to our door. We'd rather they stay in their car and we put it in the trunk and there's no contact. Same with deliveries. We have an email that we send out, and we tell people that we will place the delivery, on their front steps, and we'll usually knock at the door, or we just make a call as opposed to really, touching too much. So I think for each person, you have to just manage that as carefully as you can and make sure you're not coming in contact with others. And you have to trust that we're doing that within our facility as well.
So a comment here, the social videos have been great, but some have noticed that you had to apologize for the lighter tone of them. Did you receive negative feedback from the online community that you weren't taking the situation seriously enough?
So it actually is something that I wanted to be in front of. And to be in total honesty, my mother-in-law had told me that her sister had mentioned that she saw the videos and was that, she thought that it was a little too, sort of loose, I think, for this time. And so no one emailed me, no one, questioned it, but I think in these cases is the people who like them will like your posts and be involved. The ones who don't won't comment. So I felt that writing that note that we did, which is basically that, I wanted people to know that we want to have fun. I hope that it doesn't come across as we're not being the situation, and it make at least address it if they don't feel comfortable.
So Doug, I think unfortunately you've frozen up a little bit on us. Okay, we'll take a moment, and hopefully Doug will come back. I'd say in the meantime, if you have any additional questions, to please put into the chat.
So, and I think Doug is dialing back in again to Zoom. So the one thing I'll ask all of you to do, we're sending out emails kind of letting you know what the Leadership Center is trying to offer to you. At the bottom of those emails, we're asking you, tell us what you want. What can we provide for you that would be really helpful as you try to navigate this way? So please take us up on that offer and email any of us and let us know what type of content, what timing, what would work best for you, because we made a strong commitment to continue to deliver not just our regular programs, but we want to provide supplemental offerings to everyone who's involved with the Leadership Center.
I'm back in if you can hear me.
Yay, excellent.
Hi guys, welcome back. So I think we lost you at just the end of that last question. So if you had any final thoughts there, we can jump to the next question.
Only just that we posted the positive statement to let people, make sure people felt comfortable with what we were doing, and we wanted to get in front of that.
Great. So when you think about when business reopens and the economy enters a recovery phase, what consumer behaviors are you anticipating changing as that begins to happen?
So we're, again, being as careful as we were closing down. I think we're really careful gearing back up. And so initially we said we'd close for 8 weeks at Fire. It's going to be, I think, a longer term. And what we want to do is we probably will have some government regulation that will tell us what to do. But I would expect that we will have half the amount of seating that we have in the restaurants currently. I think, you know, whether it's the gloves, whether it's face masks, where they're telling us how to clean things or how to do our work. I think those things will just be day-to-day expectations. I think we will, because we're working in it in the takeout and delivery, I think we're really gaining great experience, and we're learning from that to gear us up to better be prepared when we reopen. But I think just what we're going through at home, just what they're telling us about washing our hands and doing all these safety things, you know, I think those will become that, you know, we'll have signage in our restaurants at every door that says this, and this. And I'm sure in the restrooms we'll have, you know, we would never have considered at Fire having sort of a pump, you know, sanitizer, because it just looked really terrible. So now, of course, at every door you'll have a pump where you could at least put sanitizer on your hand, your, you know, Purell or whatever it would be. So.
And we have time for one more question. And this, as we think about foods, it does so much more than nourish us. It really does bring us together. So how can food continue to provide fellowship at a time when we really just can't be together?
Well, I think there's so many ways. I mean, we have to eat every day. So I think sharing recipes, I think taking advantage of the takeout and the delivery options that are available and experiencing the food that you can. Reaching out to restaurants, I think, during this time, you know, if you had a question, or just going to their websites and connecting and saying, you know, if you have a cooking question, or if you have, you know, most of the restaurants that you would want to support are going to be available to answer those questions or to connect with you. Certainly through cooking in your own kitchen, and even sharing videos and doing a lot on social media today, I think is going to be the key to it, because you eat with your eyes a lot. I wish there was a smell-o-vision, or, you know, where you could actually eat through your television, but I think really just staying engaged, I think, is the key. And just like you read a magazine about food, or just like you read a magazine and you hear about this great new restaurant and you want to experience it, I think that's how we have to do it now. And you just can only do so much, you know, enliven your kitchen at this time and try and enjoy that experience.
Great, thank you very much. And at this point, I am going to turn it back to Mary Ann.
Doug, I have two very important questions for you.
Sure.
How do we access your takeout menu?
So we have a very easy platform. So if you go to our website, it's zoogcle.com. It's Z as in zebra, H as in Harry, U as in Ulysses, G as in good, CLE.com. And then if you scroll down the page, there's an order icon. You just click on that and the whole menu is available for ordering. And then you actually will, when you get into that order screen, it'll offer either pickup or delivery. And if you're in our delivery region, we'll do that. If you're not, and you're on the east side, I make some adjustments if you email us. So.
Oh, that's very good to know. So I'm pretty far east, and my guess is that you're not going to make those big adjustments. So
well, Chagrin and Richmond is sort of my east, so you can always meet me.
Fair enough. But if we want to support you, and so that when doors reopen, that all of your restaurants are there for us to enjoy, can we buy gift cards?
So I am not a big believer in the gift card purchasing program, because I think what we have to focus on right now is preserving the revenue and preserving our checking accounts. And the more people buy gift cards and it's not as much of a support to me as to say, I'd rather, the minute we reopen, tell all your friends to come back and visit us. That's really, I think, important. And I think too, going to your farmers market, supporting the food purveyors that we buy from is super important as well. But the gift cards, I think it's a double-edged sword. It's nice to get that cash up front, but it's really a loan, and then you're having to produce all of this without income at the end. And I worry about that especially in the way this is being promoted.
Right. Good point. Good point. Well, I want to thank you so very much for your time. And I've been looking at some of the photos of those of you who are participating. Katie, it's great to see that baby. And I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Margaret McKenzie, who is one of our folks on the front line helping to combat this. So thanks for making time, Margaret, to join us today, and for all that you do to lead your team at South Point Hospital. Doug, you're awesome. Take out and eat often. So thanks very much for making time, and keep it going.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.